the 2 people that are on. Hopefully more people will see this. Today is going to be pretty quick. I'm going to show you how baby starters have progressed, talk about some questions that people mentioned in comments, and talk about what we're going to do next week. So, let's see. Here is the wheat starter. Notice the extra liquid on top. I actually added some water to it last night because I realized some of the flour hadn't even got wet. But it looks like I added too much, which is why it's kind of like bleh, goopy. So I'll have to adjust the amount I add to it. You can see it hasn't really done anything yet, but this is the one that's just flour and water, and we weren't expecting that to do anything yet for a couple days. And this is the pineapple rye, and it hasn't really done much in the way, you can't really see any bubbles or anything, maybe a couple on the bottom. I think I might do a little higher juice to flour ratio today, we'll see. Here's my existing starter, Mr. Sticky. You can see he did bubble up. This is what a happy starter looks like. It bubbled and rose. So that's what we're hoping to get out of those by next week. So, I think I misspoke last time. I wanted to talk about more about what's in a sourdough starter. It is a symbiotic relationship of yeast and bacteria. The yeast is not Candida miliary, which is the species of yeast that you'll get in yeast packets. It's several different species, but the San Franciscanensis is one of the species of bacteria, not yeast. That's what I messed up on. So, anyway, there's a bunch of different species of both bacteria and yeast that show up in sourdough starters. They have a symbiotic relationship. The particular yeast that show up in the starter actually like how acidic their environment is from the lactic acid and the acetic acid that the lactobacteria create. The bacteria can eat certain sugars that the yeast can't eat, so they're not competing with each other, and they're all happy-go-lucky. Woohoo! Alright, so let's feed them. So pineapple rye. We are still giving it pineapple juice, not water. Remember I said the first 3 or 4 days we want to add pineapple juice, not water, because we want that acidic environment. You can see mine is super thick, so I think I do want to do a slightly different proportion of liquid to flour on this one. And I forgot about this yesterday. Rye flour, especially whole grain rye flour, can actually hold more liquid than a wheat flour, so it is going to be thicker if you do an equal ratio. So today I think I'm going to do an ounce of flour and 1.5 ounces of pineapple juice and see if that gets a bit more like the texture that I want. So we are not taking anything out. That's the other thing, don't forget. Day 2, day 3, maybe even day 4, depending on what's happened with your starter. Don't take anything out. We're just adding. Once the colony is going, that's when we actually start taking stuff out, but not in the beginning. That can actually slow the creation of a happy starter. Okay, so 1 ounce of flour, and we're going to try 1.5 ounces of pineapple juice. Which is not weight-wise 1.5 ounces because juice is thicker than water. I'm going with volume for this for now, I guess. Doesn't really matter that much. Stir that up. The big thing is we want to make sure all the flour is hydrated so that the enzymes that are in it can start to break down those sugars in it into a form that all the things we want to grow can use. So if it's too stiff or dry, it's not going to do much. Which is the concern. Alright, so this is a little more the texture I want. It's not super thin, but it is a little bit more liquidy. So that was 1.5 ounces of pineapple juice to 1 ounce of rye flour. If you're doing rye flour with either water or juice, I would recommend that. Washing my hands since I touched that. Alright, then we'll go ahead and feed the wheat one. Now, the extra water I am going to actually pour off because I don't need it to be that wet. this one just gets an ounce of water. Actually, an ounce and a quarter. Alright. And an ounce of flour. Okay. So we'll mix that one up. And hopefully, over the weekend, I'm going to keep doing the same feeding routine for both of them, Saturday and Sunday. So the pineapple rye one will get 1 ounce of rye flour, 1.5 ounces of juice on Saturday. And then the same thing on Sunday. The wheat one will get 1 ounce of wheat flour and 1.25 ounces of water, because remember I said it was too stiff yesterday, the next couple days. Hopefully by Monday, we'll start seeing some activity in these guys. More likely we'll see it with the pineapple juice one first before we'll see it with this one. So my plan is I don't have it on the event schedule yet to do another kind of check-in on the starters early next week. And then I'm also going to refresh my existing starter, Mr. Sticky. And again, this is what a happy starter looks like. You can see all the bubbles. And this is actually kind of late. It's already fallen. It's risen, doubled, and fallen because I fed it 24 hours ago. So at its height, it would have been much higher, much bigger bubbles, that kind of thing. My plan is also on Monday or Tuesday early next week, whenever I do Let's Check In on Starters again, see how they progressed, to show you some more with actually baking with the starter and talking about recipes and things like that. I did have a note, because people asked some questions in the comments from the other day about acidity. So a sourdough starter is acidic. That's why it's called sourdough, right? And that's actually basically a defense mechanism to keep other yeast and bacteria out that can't deal with the acidity, which works to our advantage because it keeps out things we don't want, which means it's not very likely to get contaminated. The only thing you're at risk getting into your starter and messing it up is mold, which is very unlikely unless you leave it out at room temperature, not fed, for a while. While they're active, the bacteria that live in the starter actually produce some anti-mold agents, but if you're not feeding them, then it can eventually get invaded by mold. So that's the one big worry, but if there's a simple solution, if you're not using your starter for a while, you don't want to feed it every day, stick it in the fridge. Feed it up first, stick it in the fridge. It can be in there for 2 weeks and come back just fine. So then you don't have to worry about, oh no, it might get mold or anything like that. I'm not taking anything out of Mr. Sticky today because I'm going to build up more volume to start a bread. So I'm just adding 1 ounce of water and 1 ounce of flour so that I can start some bread probably over the weekend. The reason that you remove some from an active starter has to do with a couple different things. It has to do with, yes, you want acidity, but you don't want it to get too high. And it also has to do with just eventually you end up with so much you can't keep it in your jar. So there's a volume concern. It also has to do with removing waste products, essentially. Like any organism, yeast and bacteria produce waste products. And, they don't like to be drowning in their own waste if they can help it. So that's why in an active starter you remove some of that stuff. But we're not worrying about that in our fresh ones because we're still trying to establish colonies. Right, so there's Mr. Sticky all mixed up. That's actually a little wetter texture than I normally go for, but it'll be fine. There's a lot of it'll be fine with this because you don't have to be super precise. The yeast doesn't care if it's exactly 1-to-1 water to flour ratio. That's more for us, the bakers. So if you mess it up one time, it's not a big deal. So the other thing I want to talk about was the jars. I have these funky green lids. These actually allow gas to escape. They are going to produce CO2 and a few other gases as they ferment your flours. If you don't have funky lids, you have like a regular mason jar lid, just don't screw it down tight. Put the lid on, set the little doohickey. Gas can escape, it's not going to explode. People keep them in a jar with a crock lid. So that's something to think about that I forgot to mention last time. Don't have a really tightly sealed lid, because then you're going to see gas actually exploding your jar. which of course we don't want. The other thing was just generally the wetness, like the ratio thing. Like I said, they don't care. That's more for us as bakers. So when you're starting a starter, if you want to go wetter, some people go as much as 2 times the weight of water to 1 time the weight of flour when they're starting it. That's fine. That will not matter until you go to make a bread out of it, at which point you can do math to make it work, basically. So that was all I wanted to go over today. Again, I'm planning to do another thing either Monday or Tuesday, early next week. We'll check in on the starters. We'll start talking about baking, and then another probably pre-edited video of actually baking with it later next week. So I will post those times in the event that I've got on Facebook, although the videos may switch to a different format because I'm having issues with Facebook not notifying people. Let me know how your starters are doing. If you have any questions, in the comments.